My name is Zev. I'm 63 years old, and 15 minutes ago, I watched my son-in-law poison my drink. My wife, Miriam, beat cancer this year. Our daughter Melody is engaged to him. Tonight was supposed to be our 40th anniversary, a celebration of survival. But one glimpse through a cracked bathroom door told me everything I needed to know. He thinks I'm just some old man, weak, trusting, easy. He has no idea who I used to be. So I drank it, I smiled, and I let him think his plan was working. What he doesn't know is that I've been 3 steps ahead this entire time, and by the time the night is over, he'll wish he never walked through my door. This is the story of how I destroyed the man who tried to destroy my family. And trust me, you won't see any of it coming. If you want to know what happens next, and trust me, you do, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the bell notification because this story gets darker, smarter, and more twisted with every chapter. Like this video if you'd stay calm like Zev. Comment below. Would you drink the poisoned champagne or confront him on the spot? Because what Zev does in chapter will shock you. And what he discovers in next 2? It'll change everything. Don't miss a single second. Subscribe now. I've learned a lot in 63 years. I've learned that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every single day. I've learned that cancer doesn't care about your plans, your dreams, or how much you've already survived. And I've learned that the people closest to you can smile in your face while holding a knife behind their back. Tonight, I learned what that knife feels like. My name is Zev Kellerman. 40 years ago, I married a woman named Miriam in a courthouse ceremony that cost us $12. We had nothing, no money, no prospects, just 2 kids in love who believed they could build something real. And we did. We built a life, a home. A daughter named Melody who became the center of our universe. We survived layoffs, recessions, my mother's death, Miriam's father's Alzheimer's. We survived everything life threw at us, including stage 3 breast cancer. Miriam's diagnosis came 18 months ago. I remember the doctor's face when he told us. Clinical, detached, like he was reading a grocery list. Aggressive, he said. We need to move fast. So we did. Chemo, radiation, surgery. Miriam lost her hair, her energy, her sense of taste, but she never lost her fight. And I never left her side. Last month, the scans came back clean. We won. So tonight, our 40th anniversary, was supposed to be sacred. A victory lap. A celebration of survival. That's what I thought anyway, until I saw Dario in the hallway bathroom with a small glass vial in his hand. Let me tell you about Dario. Tall, handsome, charming in that effortless way that makes people trust him instantly. He's 34, 11 years older than Melody, and works in finance consulting, whatever that means. They met at a networking event 3 years ago. She fell hard, fast. Miriam loved him. I tolerated him. There was always something off. Nothing I could put my finger on. Just a feeling. The way he asked too many questions about our investments. The way he'd casually mention the safe in our office. The way his eyes would linger on things, our watches, our car, the artwork Miriam's mother left us. But Melody was happy, so I kept my mouth shut. Tonight, he insisted on bringing champagne. Dom Perignon, he said, grinning as he pulled the bottle from an insulated bag. Only the best for 40 years, Miriam gushed. Melody beamed. I smiled and said, thank you. Then I excused myself to use the restroom. The hallway bathroom door was cracked open, just an inch. Enough for me to see Dario standing at the sink, his back to the door. He pulled a small vial from his jacket pocket. Clear liquid. He glanced over his shoulder once, twice, then carefully emptied it into the champagne bottle. My heart stopped. He capped the bottle, shook it gently, slipped the vial back into his pocket. And I stood there, frozen, watching the man my daughter planned to marry poison the drink meant for me. I didn't confront him. I didn't shout. I backed away silently, my pulse hammering in my ears, and walked into the living room like nothing had happened. 15 minutes later, we were raising our glasses. To Zev and Miriam, Dario said, his smile wide and bright. 40 years of love, commitment, and strength. You too are an inspiration. Melody squeezed his hand. Miriam's eyes were wet with happy tears. And I looked at Dario. Really looked at him, and saw nothing. No guilt, no hesitation, just cold calculation. To 40 more, he added, locking eyes with me. I raised my glass. The champagne was cold, crisp, and wrong. There was a faint metallic taste underneath the bubbles, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it, which I was. I took one sip, maybe 2 ounces, enough to make him think I'd drunk it, enough to let whatever drug he'd used start working. Then I set the glass down gently and smiled. Overwhelming, I said, my voice thick. 40 years, it's a lot. You okay, Dad? Melody's face shifted to concern. Just need some air, I said, standing slowly. I let myself sway, just a little, just enough. Miriam touched my arm. Zev, I'm fine, honey, just emotional. Big night. I walked toward the patio, feeling 3 sets of eyes on my back, but only one of them was waiting for me to fall. Outside, the cold air hit my face like a slap. My hands were trembling, not from fear, from rage, because I knew what came next. I knew why he'd done this, and I knew exactly what kind of man Dario really was. But he didn't know what kind of man I used to be, and that was going to be his biggest mistake. I've never been a violent man. Even in my 20s, when I worked corporate security and dealt with fraudsters, embezzlers, and con artists on a daily basis, I never threw a punch, never raised my voice. I didn't need to. I learned early that the most dangerous weapon you can have isn't a gun or a fist. It's information and patience. I stood on the patio for exactly 8 minutes, counting my breaths, letting the drug work its way through my system. Whatever Dario had given me, Rohypnol, probably, maybe GHB, it was starting to take hold. My thoughts felt sluggish, my limbs heavy, but I'd only had 2 ounces. Not enough to knock me out completely, just enough to play the part. Through the sliding glass door, I could see Melody and Miriam cleaning up the dessert plates, laughing about something. The sound of Miriam's laugh, God, I'd missed that sound during the cancer months, cut straight through my chest. She had no idea what was happening 10 feet away from her. Neither did Melody, and that's what hurt the most. I heard footsteps behind me, heavy, deliberate. Zev, Dario's voice, concerned, gentle. I turned slowly, gripping the railing for support. Yeah? You sure you're okay? You don't look so good. I let my eyelids droop. Tired, really tired. He stepped closer, put a hand on my shoulder. Why don't you head upstairs? Lie down for a bit. We'll clean up down here. I nodded, slow, compliant. Yeah, good idea. He guided me back inside, his hand firm on my arm. Miriam looked up, her face creased with worry. Is he okay? Just exhausted? Dario said smoothly. Big day. I'll help him upstairs. Melody moved toward us, but Dario waved her off. I've got him. You two finish up. We'll be right back. And just like that, he separated me from my family. Smart. He walked me up the stairs, his arm around my shoulders like we were old friends, like he cared. Almost there, Zev. Just a little further. We reached the bedroom. He eased me onto the bed, lowering me down with surprising gentleness. Rest, he said softly. You've earned it. I let my eyes close. I heard him step back, heard him watching me. Then I heard the door click shut. I waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Then I opened my eyes. The house was quiet. Downstairs I could hear the faint sound of dishes clinking, water running. Miriam and Melody still in the kitchen. And then, faint but unmistakable, I heard Dario's voice. He was outside. I stood up slowly, fighting the fog in my head, and moved to the window. Down below, in the side yard near the driveway, I could see him pacing back and forth, phone pressed to his ear. I cracked the window open an inch. His voice drifted up. "Yeah, it's done. He drank it. Give it 20, maybe 30 minutes, and he'll be completely out." Silence. He was listening to someone on the other end. No, Miriam didn't notice anything. Neither did Melody. "I told you, I've got this under control." My chest tightened. "Look," he continued, his voice dropping lower. "Once he's unconscious, I'll get him upstairs. Already did that part, and you meet me here like we planned. The safe is in the office. He keeps everything in there. Bank accounts, property deeds, investment records, everything. The safe, our safe, the one Miriam and I had installed 5 years ago to keep our estate planning documents, our retirement accounts, the trust fund we'd set up for Melody. Everything we'd spent 40 years building. Once we have the account numbers, Dario said, we transfer everything offshore. By the time he wakes up tomorrow, if he even remembers anything, it'll be too late to reverse it. And if he goes to the cops, it's his word against mine. Who's going to believe a confused old man who got drunk on his anniversary?" A pause. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. "Relax, Ashen. I've done this twice before. Virginia, remember? And that couple in Portland. Smooth as silk. This is no different." Ashen. I didn't know that name, but I was going to. "Just meet me here at 1 a.m., Dario continued. "Everyone will be asleep. We'll have hours to work, and by sunrise, we're ghosts." He hung up. I watched him slip the phone into his pocket, check his watch, and head back toward the house. Whistling. Actually whistling. I moved away from the window and sat down on the edge of the bed, my hands shaking. Not from the drug, from the weight of what I'd just heard. Dario wasn't just stealing from me. He'd done this before, to other families, other fathers, and he was planning to do it to mine. I looked at the photo on the nightstand. Miriam and me on our wedding day, 40 years ago. 2 kids with nothing but hope. I thought about Melody downstairs, laughing with the man who was planning to rob us blind, and I thought about the metal lockbox hidden in the back of my closet, the one I hadn't opened in 15 years, the one that held everything I used to be. I stood up, crossed the room, and opened the closet. The lockbox was exactly where I'd left it, buried under winter coats and old tax documents, covered in a thin layer of dust. I hadn't touched it since the day I retired, 15 years ago when I decided to leave that version of myself behind. But tonight, I needed him back. I pulled the box out, set it on the bed, and entered the combination. The lock clicked open. Inside, a USB drive. A burner phone, still in its packaging. A notebook filled with names, addresses, contact information, and, underneath it all, a laminated ID card from my old life. Zev Kellerman Senior Investigator, Corporate Fraud Division Sentinel Risk Management. I stared at that card for a long moment. Most people don't know this about me. Not our neighbors, not our friends, not even Melody. Miriam knows some of it, but not everything. Not the details. For 20 years, I hunted people who stole for a living. Not petty thieves, not desperate people making bad choices. Professionals. The kind who forge documents, create false identities, infiltrate families and corporations, and disappear with millions. The kind who are so good at lying that they can pass polygraphs. The kind who think they're untouchable. I specialized in financial fraud and identity theft. I tracked money through shell companies and offshore accounts. I built cases so airtight that federal prosecutors would smile when they saw my name on the file. And I never, not once, let anyone get away. I'd retired at 48 because Miriam asked me to. "I want you home," she'd said. "I want a husband, not a ghost." So I walked away. started consulting part-time, spent more time with Melody, became the man I thought I was supposed to be. But the skills never left. You don't forget how to read people, how to track financial patterns, how to investigate someone so thoroughly they won't even know you're looking. And tonight, I was going to use every single one of those skills. I powered up my old laptop, kept charged out of habit, and plugged in the USB drive. The encryption software booted up instantly. Muscle memory guided my fingers across the keyboard. I started with the basics. Dario Ashford. Within 10 minutes, I had his social security number, employment history, credit report, and address history for the past decade. And that's when I found the first crack. Dario Ashford didn't exist before 2019. No birth certificate, no high school records, no college transcripts, nothing. The name was an alias. I dug deeper, cross-referenced his current address with property records, found a lease application from 6 years ago, different name listed as co-signer, Dario Corvina. There it was. I ran that name through every database I still had access to, some legal, some less so. And the floodgates opened. Dario Corvina, age 34, born in Tampa, Florida. Married in 2016 to a woman named Estella Rousseau in Richmond, Virginia. Marriage lasted 11 months. She filed for divorce citing financial abuse and coercion. Police report filed. No charges brought due to lack of evidence. Married again in 2018 to Miriam Chen in Portland, Oregon. Yes, another Miriam. Marriage lasted 14 months. She filed for divorce citing fraudulent misrepresentation and theft. Police report filed. No charges brought. Dario had disappeared before the investigation concluded. Both women reported the same pattern. He'd gained access to their finances, their family's finances, and drained accounts before vanishing. Both women reported he had a partner, a brother, Ashen Corvina. I pulled up Ashen's file. Younger than Dario by 3 years. 2 arrests for identity theft in his 20s, both dismissed on technicalities. Currently listed as self-employed consultant. No current address on file, which meant he was careful. They both were. This wasn't amateur hour. This was a practiced, polished operation. They'd been doing this for years, moving from state to state, targeting middle-class and upper-middle-class families with assets but not enough wealth to have serious security. Families like mine. And Melody, my brilliant, trusting, loving daughter, was just the entry point. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. My hands weren't shaking anymore. My head was clear. The drug had worn off, burned away by adrenaline and purpose. I looked at the clock. 11:47 p.m. Dario said he'd make his move at 1 a.m. That gave me just over an hour. I opened a new window and accessed our bank accounts. One by one, I changed every password, every security question, every authentication method. I activated 2-factor verification on everything. Then I logged into the brokerage accounts. Same process. The trust fund for Melody. Locked down. The retirement accounts. Locked down. Everything. Then I made a call to our bank's after-hours fraud prevention line. Told them I suspected my accounts had been compromised. They flagged everything. Froze all transfers pending in-person verification with 2 forms of ID. Dario wasn't getting a single dollar. But I wasn't done. I pulled up the recording app on my phone, the one I'd used for work interviews back in the day, and I went downstairs. Mariam and Melody were in the living room, watching an old movie. Dario was sitting in the armchair scrolling through his phone. He looked up when I appeared. For just a second, I saw panic flash across his face. "Zev," he said, standing quickly. "You're awake. You should be resting." "I'm fine," I said, waving him off. "Just needed some water. You know how it is at my age." I smiled. He smiled back, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Big day tomorrow," I continued casually. "Melody, you said you two were meeting with the wedding planner, right?" "Yeah," she said, smiling. Final venue walkthrough. Exciting, I said. I looked at Dario. You take good care of her. Always, he said. Liar. I filled a glass of water, chatted for another minute, then headed back upstairs. But I'd gotten what I needed. I'd rattled him, and now he knew I wasn't as incapacitated as he'd thought. I went back to the bedroom and checked the window. 12:23 a.m. Any minute now, Dario would make his move, and I'd be ready. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Next is where Dario walks into Zev's trap and realizes he's been played from the very beginning. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. Like this video if you think Zev is a genius. Comment: should Zev let Dario try to open the safe or confront him now? Let's see what you think. Don't miss. It's next. 12:58 a.m. The house was silent. Miriam was asleep beside me, her breathing soft and steady. I'd told her I wasn't feeling well, needed rest. She'd kissed my forehead and turned out the light. She had no idea I was wide awake. I heard the creak of the stairs. Slow. Careful. Dario. I kept my eyes closed, my breathing deep and even. Miriam stirred slightly but didn't wake. The bedroom door was cracked open. I'd left it that way on purpose. Through my barely open eyelids, I saw his silhouette pause in the doorway, watching, waiting, confirming I was out. After 30 seconds, he moved on. I heard his footsteps cross the hallway into my office. I counted to 10. Then I slipped out of bed, silent as a shadow, and crept to the doorway. The office door was open. A thin beam of light, his phone's flashlight, swept across the room. I watched from the hallway as Dario approached the safe. It was built into the wall behind a framed painting of the Amalfi Coast, a gift from Miriam's sister. He lifted the painting carefully, setting it aside. The safe's digital keypad glowed faintly in the darkness. He pulled out his phone, consulted something on the screen, probably notes he'd taken when he'd watched me open it weeks ago, and punched in the code. 6 digits. The safe beeped. Access denied. He froze, tried again. Same code. Access denied. What the hell? He whispered. I almost smiled. I'd changed the code that afternoon, right after I'd seen him with the vial. He tried a third time. Access denied. Lockout initiated. The safe's screen went dark. Security feature. 3 wrong attempts triggered a 12-hour lockout. Dario's breathing quickened. He pulled out his phone, typing furiously. Texting someone. Ashen, probably. A moment later, his phone buzzed. He read the response and I saw his jaw tighten. Then he turned toward the door. Toward me. I stepped back into the shadows, pressing myself against the wall. He emerged from the office, phone in hand, moving quickly toward the stairs. I waited until he was halfway down. Then I followed. He went straight to the front door and slipped outside. I moved to the upstairs hallway window and watched. He stood on the driveway, phone to his ear, pacing in tight circles. I couldn't hear his words, but I could see his body language. Frustration. Panic. 30 seconds later, a car pulled up to the curb. Dark sedan. No headlights. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out. He was younger than Dario. Lean. Nervous energy. Ashen. They met at the end of the driveway, their voices low and urgent. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. I already knew what they were saying. The safe won't open. The old man changed the code. What do we do? Dario gestured toward the house. Ashen shook his head. They argued for a moment. Then Dario pointed at his watch. They were running out of time. I moved quickly. Downstairs, through the kitchen, out the back door. I circled around the side of the house, staying low, using the hedges for cover. My phone was in my pocket, recording everything. I got within 20 feet of them, close enough to hear. Telling you, something's wrong, Ashen was saying. He shouldn't be awake. You said he'd be out for hours. I gave him enough, Dario hissed. Maybe he didn't drink all of it. I don't know. This is bad, Dee. If he's awake, if he suspects, he doesn't suspect anything. He's a 63-year-old man. He's not a threat. Oh, Dario. We need to abort, Ashen said. Come back another time. No. Dario's voice was firm. We're this close. The wedding's in 2 months. Once we're married, I'll have legal access to everything. But right now, we need those account numbers. Then how do we get into the safe? Dario paused. We don't, he said finally. We go to Plan B. Which is? We wake him up, force him to open it. My blood ran cold. Are you insane? Ashen's voice rose. You want to threaten him? In his own house? With his wife and daughter upstairs? We won't threaten him, Dario said. We'll just persuade him. Tell him we know about the offshore accounts he's been hiding from the IRS. Make him think we've got leverage. Does he have offshore accounts? No, but he doesn't know that we don't know. Ashen shook his head. This is a bad idea. You got a better one? Silence. Then Ashen sighed. Fine, but if this goes sideways, it won't. They turned back toward the house. I moved faster. I slipped back inside through the back door, my heart pounding. They were coming, and they thought they had the upper hand. I climbed the stairs quietly, went into the bedroom, and shook Miriam awake. Zev? She blinked, confused. What's wrong? I need you to trust me, I whispered. Get Melody. Lock yourselves in her room. Don't come out until I tell you. Her eyes widened. Zev, what? Please, Miriam, right now. She saw something in my face, something that told her this wasn't a drill. She nodded. 60 seconds later, I heard Melody's bedroom door lock. I went back to our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, waiting. I heard the front door open, footsteps on the stairs. 2 sets. The bedroom door swung open. Dario stood there, Ashen behind him. They both froze when they saw me sitting there, awake, aware, and smiling. Hello, boys, I said quietly. I've been expecting you. For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. Dario's face went from confident to confused to terrified in the span of a heartbeat. Ashen took a step back toward the door. Going somewhere? I asked, my voice calm, almost gentle. Zev, Dario started, forcing a laugh. What are you? We heard a noise downstairs. Thought maybe someone broke in. We were just checking. Stop. 1 word, but something in my tone made him close his mouth. I stood up slowly, reached into my pocket, and pulled out my phone. Let me tell you what's going to happen now, I said. You're going to stand there. You're going to listen, and then you're going to make the most important decision of your life. I tapped my phone screen. Dario's voice filled the room. Once he's unconscious, I'll get him upstairs. You meet me here like we planned. The safe is in the office. He keeps everything in there. The color drained from Dario's face. I let the recording play for 30 seconds, long enough for them to hear everything. The plan, the previous cons, the mention of Ashen's name. Then I stopped it. That's a felony, I said quietly. Conspiracy to commit theft, drugging someone without consent, breaking and entering. And that's just tonight. Ashen moved toward the door again. I wouldn't, I said, not even looking at him. I've already sent copies of that recording to 3 different email addresses. If anything happens to me, anything at all, they go straight to the police, along with everything else I found. I finally looked at Ashen. Hello, Ashen Corvina. Born in Tampa. 2 arrests for identity theft. Known associate of your brother, Dario Corvina. That's his real name, by the way. In case you were wondering why he lied about that too, Melody. I paused. Oh, wait. She's not here. I made sure of that. Because unlike you two, I actually care about protecting her. Dario found his voice. Zev, listen. No. I cut him off. You listen. I know about Estella Rousseau. Richmond, Virginia, 2016. I know about Miriam Chen. Portland, Oregon, 2018. I know about the police reports they filed. the patterns of financial abuse, the money that disappeared. I took a step toward him. I know everything. Dario's hands were shaking now. I spent 20 years hunting people like you, I continued. Professionals, con artists, people who think they're smarter than everyone else. And you know what I learned? I leaned in close. You all make the same mistake. You underestimate your marks. Here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling back. You have two choices. I held up one finger. Choice 1. I call the police right now. I hand over the recording, the evidence of your previous cons, the vial you left in the bathroom trash. Yes, I kept it. And your fingerprints all over it. You'll both be arrested, you'll be charged. And between the physical evidence and the testimony from Estella and Miriam Chen, you'll be looking at 5 to 7 years. Minimum. Ashen's face went white. I held up a second finger. Choice 2. You walk away. Tonight. Right now. You sit down with Melody tomorrow morning, and you tell her the engagement is off. You tell her you're not ready. You tell her you made a mistake. You break her heart gently, quietly, and you leave. And if we do that, Dario's voice was barely a whisper, then I don't press charges. I don't contact the police. I don't reach out to your previous victims, though I should. You get to walk away. Why? Ashen asked. Why would you let us go? I looked at him directly. Because my daughter loves him, I said, my voice breaking slightly. And if I send him to prison, she'll hate me. She'll think I destroyed her happiness. She'll spend years wondering if he really loved her, if maybe I was wrong, if maybe she could have saved him. I swallowed hard. But if he leaves on his own, if he chooses to walk away, then she'll grieve. She'll heal. And eventually she'll move on, without hating me, without wondering. The room was silent. You have 60 seconds to decide, I said. Dario looked at Ashen. Ashen looked back. Some silent communication passed between them. Then Dario turned to me. If we leave, you'll really let it go? I'll let you go, I said, but I'm keeping all the evidence. And if I ever hear that you've tried this con again, on anyone, anywhere, I'll make sure every police department in the country has your face, your real names, and everything I've compiled. You'd do that? Try me. Another long silence. Finally, Dario nodded. We'll leave, he said quietly. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., you meet Melody for coffee. You end it. Kindly. And then? And then you disappear. Change your names again if you want. Start over somewhere far from here, but you never contact my daughter again. Dario's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Now, get out of my house, I said. They left. I watched from the window as they got into Ashen's car and drove away. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from exhaustion, from heartbreak. I sat down on the bed and put my face in my hands. A moment later, the bedroom door opened. Miriam stood there, Melody behind her. Dad? Melody's voice was small, scared. I looked up at her, my daughter, my heart, and I knew what I had to do. Sit down, sweetheart, I said gently. We need to talk. And I told her everything. 3 months later. Melody still wasn't speaking to me. She didn't yell, didn't scream. She just went quiet. After I told her everything that night, after I showed her the recording, the background checks, the evidence, she sat there in silence for 10 minutes. Then she stood up, walked to her room, and closed the door. The next morning, Dario met her for coffee. He told her it was over. She came home in tears, and she looked at me like I was a stranger. She'll come around, Miriam said one evening, holding my hand across the dinner table. Will she? I asked. You saved her, Zev. Eventually, she'll see that. I broke her heart. He broke her heart. You just made sure he couldn't break anything else. I wanted to believe her, but the silence from Melody's end, no calls, no texts, no visits, felt like a wound that wouldn't heal. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, there was a knock at the door. I opened it, and there stood a woman I didn't recognize. "Zev Kellerman?" she asked. "Yes?" "My name is Estella Rousseau." My breath caught. "I got your email," she continued, "about reopening my case against Dario. I'd sent it weeks ago, along with all the evidence I'd gathered. I'd contacted both of his previous victims, given them everything they needed to pursue charges if they wanted to. "Did you go through with it?" I asked. She smiled, sad but genuine. "We both did. Me and Mariam Chen. We filed jointly 2 weeks ago. The prosecutor actually listened this time. Dario and Ashen were arrested last Friday." My chest tightened. They're facing multiple counts of fraud, theft, identity theft. The evidence you provided it was everything we needed. "Thank you." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "There's someone else here," Estella said, stepping aside. And there, standing on my driveway, was Melody. She looked at me, eyes red, face tired. "Dad." "Melody." "Estella called me," she said quietly. "She told me everything. About what you did. About how you helped her." I didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I thought you were just controlling, overprotective. But you weren't. Sweetheart, you saved me." Her voice broke, and I punished you for it. She crossed the driveway and wrapped her arms around me, and I held her. "I love you, Dad," she said. "I love you too." A year later, Mariam and I celebrated our 41st anniversary. Just us. Coffee on the back patio. No champagne. "You ever think about that night?" Mariam asked. "Every day." "Do you regret it?" I thought about Dario, sitting in a cell. About Estella and Mariam Chen, finally getting justice. About Melody, healed, stronger, cautious but hopeful. "No," I said. "I don't." Mariam squeezed my hand. 41 years. 41 years, I echoed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. If this story moved you, if you felt Zev's pain, his love, his strength, then do this. Subscribe. Because stories like this deserve to be heard. Smash that like button if you believe in protecting the people you love. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below. What would you have done in Zev's position? And what's the most important lesson from this story? Thank you for being here, for listening, for caring. More stories coming soon. Don't miss them. Subscribe now.